guys, Ross here from RIPP Superchargers. So we're back with Project Barn Find, and we're in the back of it, as a matter of fact, and this is where things are all going to end up, right at the tailpipe. What we're looking at here is the RIPP long tube header system for the 07 to 11 3.8 liter JK. And so this basically carries over to our legacy of what we're doing with this JK. This JK here is one of the rarer ones where it's a 6-speed, it's a short wheelbase, it's on a stock tire, never been touched. We've already had it on the dyno, we've already proved 156 horsepower at the wheel stock. We've already seen anywhere between 170 and 176 horsepower with a catback and a RIPP catback and our RIPP cold air intake. So now we're addressing the exhaust system. What you see here in front of you basically is everything that comes out of this vehicle and what's going to go into it. This here is a factory exhaust manifold. As you can see here, it only has just about a 2-inch inlet. It's actually just underneath it, exhaust outlet. It's called a shorty manifold. It collects everything real close, and you can see from the temperature in the metal that it's been very hot and heated quite a bit. Okay, that basically feeds into the collector feeds into the Y pipe system with the cats and all that, and we'll carry on that for a second. I really want to focus on this. Here you can see there's a main difference. This is called a long tube equal length header. And what you're seeing here, the main difference is that everything is not collecting very early on here. What you got here is you've got individual tubes for each individual cylinder, which scavenge heat away, okay, into a collector that's very far away from the cylinder head, getting cylinder head temps down rapidly, which is great. This is 16 gauge stainless steel, which is very thick and very durable. It's all handmade in America. It's welded and cleaned out. There are no imperfections in the metal. There's nothing for the air, the exhaust to get hung up on. It has what's a short race header collector here as well, so it collects everything real tight, and it goes out to nearly a 3-inch collector, so it's quite a bit bigger than this. This is an oxygen sensor placement for your pre-cat, and then as you can see, this would go something like this, and it'd go out into the other cat right there. What this gives your engine the ability to do is basically change the way it's exhausting the air. Not only is it scavenging heat away from the cylinder head, which robs power from naturally aspirated and forced induction engines, it also balances the exhaust pressures. As one fires, it'll actually create a scavenging for the next one and actually create this sort of sucking sensation where it's scavenging the next one, reducing the back pressure. What we find in the 3.8 liter is that it relieves the power quite a bit. You feel that power comes in a little bit earlier, changes the torque curve, and we should be able to prove that on the dyno. And after we finish installing this and all this stuff happens with this video very quickly, we'll be back in front of the dyno and we'll be ready to prove it. Thanks, guys.
Everybody's heard about the bird. Bird. The bird's a winner when a bird. Bird is a winner when a bird. When a bird is a winner when a bird. The bird's a winner when a bird. When the bird is a winner when a bird.
That brings us to the crossover pipe. So essentially what you're looking here is what would be stock that will come out of your vehicle. This is an 07, 08 setup here. You can see that there's 4 catalytic converters. You can see that there's some surface rust on them. They are stainless steel, but again, there is some surface rust on them. This has been off-road, so some of this is some splash and mud. These are the stock locations for the oxygen sensors. We always like to go with fresh oxygen sensors when we do these installs, so we'll put those in as we go. The main difference actually you can see here is actually probably right in this shot is the piping. Okay, it's much larger than stock. So if you're looking at this piping setup over here, okay, one of the main choke points on this unit is right between these 2 cats. That's actually smaller than 2 inches. That's 1 3/4 right here is what I'm trying to show here. So you got a cat with actually a diverter inside to keep the heat going. Then this small crossover bridge pipe, this other one with no diverter in it. There's an enormous amount of heat that's bottlenecking right over here. You have to imagine that here is your stock exhaust manifold, literally right on the cylinder head. There's this bottleneck of exhaust right here, then this small little choke point, then this secondary cat, which is a second choke point, and then it goes off to the crossover point. What you're not seeing in frame here is the long tube headers, which we've demonstrated. We'll show you that the headers are much larger, longer, and there's a technology behind it. This is actually just the tail end. There's so much technology that goes right into this just to get the heat away scavenged from the engine. Here, it bottlenecks again down to that 1 3/4 inch part, which is insane, especially if you're trying to make power with a supercharger like ours. Ours right here, we could show, is a 2.5-inch collector, 2.5 all the way around. Collects. It has a race cap with no diverter in it, and the oxygen sensors are properly placed. One prior in the exhaust in the long tube headers, and one after the cat, so we get good balance out of those as well. This, as you can see, is much smaller, and even smaller here, and very small here where the choke would be. So just this tail system alone is worth it. The thing that we do want to point out here is that a lot of the companies that you may be shopping against are showing you headers, but those headers are just short tube headers. Those headers are just the headers that you would get at the exhaust manifold, which would be up here. That's not going to do anything for power. All that's going to do is actually cause more issues. There's going to be an enormous amount of heat bottleneck right at this catalytic converter, right at the secondary catalytic converter. I want the guys who tow, for example, I want you to think about when you're in that pedal, 3,000-4,000 RPMs, pulling up I-70 in, let's say, Colorado, there's 1,700 degrees worth of cherry red catalytic converter right next to your engine here. And these oxygen sensors are trying to fatten up the tune because they're telling the computer that the exhaust system is getting too hot. When that's happening, it's actually pulling timing away, and you're making even less. So as we've demonstrated on this vehicle, if you're starting with just a measly 156 horsepower at the wheels and just about 200 pounds of torque, and let's say you're towing a small little boat that's like 2,000 pounds or something, then you put this bottleneck behind it, what do you think you guys are doing? Combine that with altitude where you're at high elevation, and you might be making like 90 horsepower. It's no wonder we sell so many supercharger kits. But the importance of going towards a good exhaust scavenging, well-designed header system couldn't be more important. Thanks. Okay guys, we're back on the dyno with Project Barn Find. That means we have a 6-speed, naturally aspirated, completely unmolested Jeep JK on the dyno with a full gamut of RIPP product. What we've been doing with this product is very straightforward. We've been showing what a factory bone stock vehicle can do, and that's what we did with Dyno 2, and then we installed a whole bunch of stuff on it. And where we are right now is our RIPP long tube headers, which is where we left it off just before this video. So we like to demo our stuff. It is on the dyno. I'm going to make a pass and then we'll talk about it. Grab that fan. I like that a lot. Wow, it's fattened up on us pretty good. A little Project Barn Find doing its job. Look at that torque, man. Okay, so here's what we're looking at here. So this Pass 2 is what this vehicle came in with. That would basically represent the 156 odd horsepower that we did originally find, and actually the just under or over 180 pounds of torque. And as you can see with our mods, our full gamut of mods here, with the air filter and exhaust system, you could see that we gained some horsepower there and we gained some torque. This top line here is the torque, this bottom line here is the horsepower. So this blue line here that picked up 156, you could see our air filter and exhaust picked up some more, and then our header increased all that and fattened it quite a bit. Now, as I say in some of our videos here, and I've seen on this particular vehicle, this nosing off is the resting of the cam, which then can only move so much air. But these mods basically can demonstrate to you that 180 horsepower can be achieved with a 3.8 liter, 220 odd pounds of torque here just under it. So you got your 10, your 20 line right here, so maybe 200 and 19, 18 pounds of torque. So basically we're making this 3.8 liter act better than a Pentastar. I mean, we like the Pentastar naturally, it's a good engine, we do really well with it, but a lot of people dog on this 3.8, and really, with the right mods, and that would be a RIPP air intake, a RIPP catback, a RIPP long tune header, and on this vehicle we also have our Diablo tune, which is a specific Diablo tune for our header in these mods. You get 180 horsepower at the wheels warmed up, that wasn't a Clory pass, okay, and 220 pounds of torque. I think that should make a lot of 3.8 guys real happy. Now, I need you to keep in mind here, this is on a 31-inch tire. So this horsepower is on a stock size tire. Most clients have 35s or 37-inch tires, and that is going to systematically take back on the horsepower. So the next time we see Project Barn Find here, we're going to end up putting our Supercharger on it, and we'll see where she ends up then. I'm predicting a pretty good number, and I think I'm going to flatten a lot of you guys out. You guys are just going to go right on the floor. Bang. See you later.